Day one. Day well, good morning. Good morning. What a wonderful day we're having. We've been having some very rainy days, and it's very, very sunny today. So I am so grateful for Chineke blessing us with a wonderful day. And I would like to welcome all of you to another session of Chiism Live. I'm your host, Okedidia Dr. Wonyo Husimari. And it is my pleasure to welcome my co-host, Dibio Chwaja, Yudi Onyo.
Dewo. Carol, Image.
Yes, I'm good. I am so good. Yes. And then also I would like to welcome every day above ground is a good day. Yes. And of course I want to bring our a special guest speaker, Namdi Osimiri. Namdi, Dewo, welcome. I have to. We're streaming strictly on Chiism Live today, because what I found is that every time that I have it split, people are going to different places. So I want to see how it works out. If we can just stream on Chiism Live on Facebook and Chiism Live on YouTube. Let's see how that works out. Let's see. Our first guest today is, of course, Nosferatu. Good morning, Dewo. I think some of them are trying to, some of them go to Global Faith, but I want to start directing traffic to Chiism Live on Facebook page. Okay. So anyway, welcome. Well, hold 1 second. We have a private message here. Okay. All right. Got it. Message from DBO Charger. Thank you. Well, so how are you guys doing today? How you all doing today?
Doing all right. As a matter of fact, there was I don't know if you got a chance. Yes, I don't know if you got a chance to see I have posted a video on my Facebook page about this young man in Nigeria who was talking to.
But I'm asking how you're doing. How you doing today?
All right. I'm doing.
When we get into all that discussion, then I want you to share that.
I am blessed. I feel good. I'm glad to be here, and let's do this.
Yes. Nandi, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it.
You're looking good. I like that.
How are you doing? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, I'm still breathing. It's wonderful. I'm quite excited as well that our programs are being streamed on Jams Radio.
Okay,
so every program we do goes to Jams Radio. So that's exciting. And that's global.
Yes.
So this is like a recording that is streamed where you have a larger audience. So that is exciting.
Nice. That's very good.
So yes. I would like to ask. I would like to remind people that we have a YouTube channel. So I would like to ask you to subscribe. If you've done so already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chiism Live. This is very important. This is how you support our program, by going and and subscribing to the channel. So please do that. And also, of course, you can join us on Facebook, Cheerism Live on Facebook, and make comments and give us your support. That's how we get support. So anyway, today is a repeat of what we talked about last time, and that is that when the drum beat changes, you have to change as well. You have to change your dance. You don't keep dancing while it has changed. While the drum beat, I'm trying to remove this so I can have give me a little second here. There we go. Okay. So today I want to start by sharing a thought that I think is an imperative. There's a tendency for us to do more talking than we listen. We tend to do more talking than we listen. So I'm asking for us to be, just today, when you leave the show, go and be still and listen. Listen to what you're hearing. When we do listen, we get a chance to talk to ourselves. Every time we hear that people are talking about us, we get offended because their talk makes us uncomfortable. You hear somebody said this about you, somebody's talking about you, get upset because they're talking about you and it makes you uncomfortable. It comes back to us because Chineke wants us to hear something that we may not want to hear. We get angry. We strike back at those who speak about us in a way that makes us uncomfortable, that speak ill about us. We get angry. We got to get them back. How dare them? But you see, we don't always want to hear anything that's negative about us. We do have a tendency to want to hear just the positive because we feel we're beyond reproach. We see ourselves as great, as righteous, as powerful, as grand, and full of pride. So when people talk about us, we get mad. But the question we must ask ourselves is, if we're all that we think we are, why are those, if we're as marvelous and powerful and successful and all that, all our perceived greatness, why those things are coming to us? Some of the things we hear may be true. Some of them may not be true. Some of them will piss us off. Excuse the expression. But we may sometimes have to listen and see what in this whole scheme of things and what we are hearing that we can use to better ourselves so that we can act differently. Being kind to ourselves means listening, paying attention, taking some of the things we hear to change ourselves. It's a gift sometimes when people talk about you. That's how you dance to a different tune, a different music, a different the sound of the drum. When it changes, you're prepared to dance a different tune because you're listening, you're paying attention, you're hearing what the drum is saying. The drum says change. Changing is not a bad thing. Changing is what it's like. We all slough off. We're not the same thing. African people need to change. We need to listen. We need to hear what's being said about us. Every time we go and say, Chineke, do this and good, do that, Chineke is asking you, have you heard the last thing I said? I may have said it through somebody else. Have you heard the last message? Did you listen? It may have come from somebody that you least expect. The reason why we are suffering as Africans today is we're not listening. We're so full of ourselves. We think we're perfect. We're the grand race and all of that. That's all we hear. We're not looking at what else is going on, what is causing us to stay stuck. That you listen inwardly, listen closely, take the moment, time to hear what other people are saying. If it makes you uncomfortable, listen so you can draw from it. I'm going to play a video that Africans are watching and walking away. They're not paying attention. And we're treating it the same way we treat when people tell us things about us. We walk away. We don't believe it. It's going to fix itself. It's going to take care of itself. And eventually, it doesn't. And what we have then is a mess because we never listened. So when I play this video, some of you may have seen this video, but this is telling you what's going on right now. And we have to ask ourselves as chiefs, as people of faith, what role can we play to change this? Are we listening? Are we just thinking it's the government that has to pay attention? Where do we come in? What are we supposed to do? So let me play this video and then we will discuss it on the back end. Sometimes it has its own mind. It's coming.
Thesis of civilization, the heart of darkness, in the words of a certain Joseph Conrad. Centuries later, Africa remains ignored. It makes news for its conflicts, poverty, and exoticism. For the longest time, the world saw it as a lost cause. Then one country saw opportunity, and thus began a new race for Africa, not very different from the scramble of the 19th century when colonial Britain and France wanted raw materials, slaves, and geopolitical influence. Now, in the 21st century, global powers are in more or less the same race. China, the United States, India, the European Union, Japan, Israel, Canada, all of these countries are in the race for Africa. And one country is emerging as the clear winner. Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay, and this is Africa, a continent of 54 sovereign states, 17% of the world's population, 9.6% of the global oil output, 90% of the world's platinum supply, 90% of the world's cobalt supply, half of the world's gold supply, 2/3 of the world's manganese, 35% of the world's uranium, 75% of the world's coltan, and 54 votes in the United Nations General Assembly. This is what makes Africa so attractive and makes the continent a battleground for global powers. There are numerous fronts: investment and infrastructure, military power, diplomacy, soft power, trade, geopolitics. Every country has its own interest in Africa. In 2016, Israel began its scramble for the continent. Benjamin Netanyahu became the first Israeli prime minister to visit Africa in 50 years. What did he want? Votes in favor of Israel and against Palestine in the United Nations resolutions. Africa and Israel share similar histories, he said. Israel went on to sponsor solar, water, and agricultural technologies. In the same year, 2016, co-sponsored a UN resolution. It condemned the construction of illegal Jewish settlements in the West Bank. What did Israel do? It cancelled the Mashav drip irrigation project. And this is just one example. Here's another one. The European Union has pledged more than $54 billion in sustainable investment for Africa. What does the EU want? Access to the African market of 1.3 billion people. Brussels has negotiated free trade agreements with at least 40 African countries. But does this ensure a balanced two-way trade? It doesn't. And no country has a bigger interest in Africa than China. China is funding 1 in 5 infrastructure projects in Africa. It is building every third one. Africa has an infrastructure deficit and China has a signed checkbook. Starting 2005, China has invested at least $2 trillion in Africa. It built 6,200 kilometers of railways, including the continent's longest railway line connecting Ethiopia and Djibouti. Beijing has also built the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. What does China get in return? A lot. Geopolitical influence to start with. Beijing is selling its culture, its currency. In Guinea-Bissau, exit signs are written in Mandarin. China has established at least 50 Confucius Institutes across 33 countries. Several African countries use Chinese currency. China also gets strategic overseas base. In 2017, China built its first overseas base at the Horn of Africa, Djibouti to be specific. Djibouti connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Indian Ocean via the Suez Canal. The base has a capacity to accommodate 10,000 troops. China also gets a market to dump its goods. China is Africa's largest trading partner. Chinese trade has increased 40-fold in the last 2 decades. At least 10,000 Chinese firms operate in Africa. This is according to a study. Africa has resources and China has access. Did you know that a third of China's investments in Africa are in the mining sector? And finally, it gets to debt trap Africa. But here's the thing, China is not the only country investing in this continent. It's not even the biggest. The United States is Africa's largest investor. It accounts for $54 billion of FDI stock. There are 600 American companies operating in South Africa alone. And this, even after the US president called Africa this. For the longest time, Africa was nothing but a war zone for Washington. It has over 7,000 troops deployed in the continent. They are spread across some 13 African countries, including Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya, Libya, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, South Sudan, Somalia, and Tunisia. For the US, Africa was a continent for counter-terrorism operations. What happened then? Why is the US suddenly interested in Africa? The answer is this. For the US, Africa is now a new front on China, and Washington is now fighting it out for power and influence. An article on the US State Department website reads, and I quote, "Africa is the continent of the future. Thus, we need to make the most of its potential. By 2050, its population will more than double to 2.2 billion people, with over 60% under the age of 25. Where is Africa's interest in all of this? Also, what about India? What role does India play in this continent? New Delhi's ties with Africa back to the time of Mahatma Gandhi. India was part of the Bandung Project of 1955. New Delhi supported Africa's anti-colonial struggles. It supported the liberalization movements in Ghana, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau. India also raised the issue of racism in South Africa. It will be unfair to say, though, that India's newfound interest in Africa has nothing to do with China. In 2018, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi toured key African states just ahead of Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit. In 2018, India decided to open 18 new embassies in Africa. India has defense partnerships with Zambia, Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia, Botswana, Uganda, Mozambique, and Namibia. New Delhi is currently training African military. Indian company Airtel is a dominant telecom firm in Africa. New Delhi is offering 50,000 scholarships to African students. Despite everything, India is far behind China in the race for Africa. China's Belt and Road Initiative has sealed its hold on Africa. If in the 1900s Africa was colonized with force, in 2020 it is being trapped by loans. China accounts for 14% of sub-Saharan debt. In Kenya, the volume of Chinese loans is 6 times that of France, which is the country's second largest creditor. And Sri Lanka can tell you what happens when Chinese loans are not repaid. China is looking to capture Africa. It has a strong diaspora, it is spending big money, it is selling its movies, culture and currency. China extracts raw materials, it manufactures products with them and sells back to this continent. Does this remind you of something? What did the British do in India? In the 19th century, the rivalry between Britain and France fueled Africa's colonization. In the 21st century, the trade war between the United States and China is hastening the same. Just like the 19th century, there are numerous countries in the scramble for Africa. And just like the 19th century, there is nothing in it for Africa.
Gravitas Plus, co-presented by Skoda.
Well, what are your thoughts?
I can't even think right now.
What I had said.
let's just be clear, and it's not really important who agrees or not. Africa doesn't belong to Africans. It hasn't belonged to us for a long time. And the reason it hasn't belonged to us is not because of, at least in the past 30 years, it's not because of China. It's because of us. We are the problem. The lack of leadership. But then again, we may complain about the leadership, but whatever leadership we have something to do with it. We have a direct responsibility. We have a shared responsibility for the inept leadership that we have. Be the change that you seek. Are we really seeking any change? Not just in Africa, but in our global African communities. Is the mindset of the African American different from the mindset of the African on the continent? Is the mindset of the Jamaican different from the mindset of the African American or the African on the continent? What is the mindset of Black folks? What interests do we as Africans globally have in terms of the motherland of Africa? Where are we globally in terms of trying to protect Africa's interest? What are we supposed to do about what's going on right now? You know, there's an elephant in the room. We don't like to talk about it. You know, it's like, oh, well, you know, we don't want to, people are a little too sensitive. You know, listen, when you take a people's way of life, their culture, their religion from them, they become stupid, destitute, and will forever justify their worth by standards that are not of their own choosing. Anything that is foreign, as far as we as Black folks is concerned, is better. Whether you're an African American or Jamaican, whatever, you know, you just be so happy to wear Gucci and neglect the same product that is being produced in your own community because you believe that the Gucci is superior. What makes it superior? In Nigeria, in Aba, I used to remember back in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, into the 80s, it was the #1 manufacturing hub, capital in all of Africa, at least West Africa. What happened to Aba now? Do we feel that we have an interest in making sure that Aba continues to produce the goods locally so we could spend the money locally so we could build those same projects that China is building in Africa? Why do we think that we need foreign help to build it? Africa has 1.3 billion people in it. If we have any kind of economic interest and self-love and planning for our children, the next generation, which most foreign countries do, there's generational planning, which is absent in Africa. If we have any sense of generational planning, we will have the ability to build the same railroad system, manufacture cars. We manufacture cars in Nigeria right now in Nnewi, in Anambra State. What pride do we have as Africans to buy that car being manufactured in Africa? Or do we want to go buy Toyota that is manufactured in Japan because we feel that Toyota is better than what it is that we have? Do we have engineers? Do we have doctors? Do we have scientists? What is it that we don't have? We have more resources than any other continent in the world. Exactly what is it that Britain can do for us, that China can do for us, that India can do for us, that any country can do for Africa, that Africa doesn't have the ability to do for itself if you have the right mindset, which is self-love, community love, love for our children, and build for the next generation, for the next 200-300 years. Plan ahead. Problem of religion. Let's stop hiding. We will go to, I just watched this video of everything that the lady pointed out that is being done, that is happening to Africa. What are we going to do on a Sunday? We will go to church and hope that God will come and save us because we don't have the ability to save ourselves. What do we as Black Muslims do? We will bow down 5 times to the east, waiting on some miracle to happen. When we as Africans have the power, we are responsible for our own demise. That's the elephant in the room. I understand slavery. I understand what it did. I understand colonization. I understand what it is. This is the 21st century. The information has been out there forever. There is nothing happening to Africa that is shocking. It was all a plan to keep you subservient for the next 1,000 years. It is part of their generational planning. They may have taken the chains off your fists and your neck and your feet, but they got chains right in your mind. Self-hatred, let's call it what it is. We don't have any love for ourselves. We don't love our children. Loving our children doesn't necessarily mean that you put them through college and they graduate to get a job in London when they could get a job in Lagos and manufacture the same goods in Lagos that are manufactured in Nigeria. We don't need the leadership anymore. We need a cultural revolution in Africa that comes from within. We cannot depend on the corrupt leadership. We have not been able to produce any leadership in the last 30 years in Africa, except for maybe in Rwanda, in Botswana. Maybe. That's the kind of leadership that we need to look forward to. But 2 countries out of 54 countries is not enough. Rwanda does not have the power. Botswana does not have the power to stop this incursion into the continent by people that mean you no good, that just want your resources, that will take over and enslave us economically. We are incurring debts that we will not be able to pay off in 100 years. And by the time we come up for air, there will be nothing left of Africa. We are the problem. We are our own worst enemy. Look in the mirror. The man in the mirror. That's a Michael Jackson song. Look in the mirror. If you listen inwardly to yourself with your ear to the ground, you will hear the footsteps of ants. We are the problem. They're just taking advantage. You cannot, my father always says, you can't hold the people at gunpoint that don't want to be held. So if we are really interested in saving the continent for the next generation, for the next 1,000 years, that effort has to come from us. The United States has no interest in making sure that Africa is opulent because it gives them less access or control to our resources. China has no interest in making sure that you're economically upright. It goes against their interest on the country.
Yeah, and the whole idea here is whether we like it or not, it's survival of the fittest.
Thank you.
We need to ask ourselves, do we want to survive? We can spend time hating them, being mad at them. They did this and that. What are we doing? And there's nothing wrong with us fighting for our own survival. And the thing that, everybody seems to be fighting for their own survival. Yes. Nandi, tell me what your thoughts are about this video.
Well, I know
it was too heavy, man. I just almost jumped out of my pants.
Look, when I saw it, I was literally, I had multiple feelings, multiple emotions. I was angry, irritated, saddened, furious.
Yeah. And
at the same time, not surprised at all. That's probably the worst one. Now here's something interesting. And this is why I like the idea of Shiism Live. Our thought processes, these thoughts are coming from individuals that are us. We're coming from a place mentally and spiritually connected to who we are. And for those individuals that are watching, we are looking to not change people's mindsets, but bring people into a perspective of something that they can see, appreciate, and get the information that they actually need, that not a lot of other people are providing them and providing us. not only from a spiritual perspective, but from a real life perspective, from the news and how it affects us. I'm going to be as candid as I can be. Maybe this is Chineke speaking through me, or this is just some stuff that people need to hear. Africa is screwed. Yeah. I'm just going to be 100%.
That's scary. That's true.
Africa is screwed.
It's truth.
What they just showed us is that we are not thinking for ourselves, for our own survival. As you guys said, survival of the fittest. 100% correct. 100% correct. And one of the problems is our mindset is so shifted towards the thought process of other people's story that we are not connecting the dots as to how what we not necessarily have ownership or dominion over. Nobody can have dominion over over a piece of land. As human beings, let's just be real. We are the custodians of the land that we sit on. We are the custodians of the land that we live on, and that land helps supply us with the things that we need in order for our survival. And it is our job to give back to that land that give and take. It's necessary for us to have that give and take with the land that we actually live on. Live and let live. Bidi kam bidi. But the problem is we're allowing everyone else that does not look like us to live off of the land that we should be the custodians of. We're allowing other people to have control and dominion over the lands that we should be able to have some level of dominion over, in a sense. We are failing every aspect
miserably
of what our ancestors and our quote unquote God-given access has been. We are not nationalistic in our mindset. We are not spiritually. We are not African in our mindset. As I tell a lot of people, and this is going to Africans too. This is for Africans too, all over the continent, all over the diaspora, here in the States. This is for every single person to understand. You wearing a dashiki, you wearing a bubu, you wearing the beads, you burning incense, you speaking the language, you eating the fufu, you eating the stew, the soup, listening to Afro beats, you knowing how to dance. And as she said, learning how to dance to a different drum. You may be able to dance the steps to a different African song that comes on, but let me be very clear, that does not make you African.
Thank you.
If you don't have respect for the land and the place that you come from and the people that you are connected to, if you do not, that does not make you African. I'm going to be real with you. That makes you an agent to the people that can control who you think and who you see yourself to be. We do not have any type of ownership or any stake in Africa because we choose not to. We are choosing not to because we have been unbelievably conditioned to see that land that has every single natural resource on one place. Every single natural resource, we have seen that as being the land, the dark land, as the woman in the video described it, is the dark land, when it's really the light. To everyone else, to us, is considered the land of the dark land, but everyone else is seeing the land of opportunity. Yeah. You have a very small group of individuals that actually see the ability to repatriate back to the continent. But I'm going to be real with you. In a second, we're going to be called Afro-Asian X's. That's what we're going to be. Yeah. Okay? We are going to be going back to Africa, and it's going to be called Asia number 2. That's what it's about to be.
Yeah, it's Asia already. It's getting there.
It's Asia
Zambia
already.
is Asian.
It's
a
Asia
done deal.
already. So our problem, number one, is we're not comprehending this for some reason. We're not getting it. We're not getting it.
Now,
Dino Twaja, he made it very, very clear. We are not paying attention to what is happening right now. The things that are happening in Africa are going to determine, when this ground shakes outside of Africa, where do we have a place to go? And in a second, it's about to be nowhere, and we will not be able to call it our own. In Asia, when the ground shakes or something is happening in China, guess what Chinese people can do? They can turn back to their motherland to either go or get the support that they need. It's the same thing with the South Americans. It's the same thing with Europeans. It's the same thing with everyone else. Middle Easterns. It's the same thing with everyone else. But for some reason, we here in America, the African Americans here, have some grudge against Africans, and the Africans have some grudge against African Americans, or it's some type of give and take, this and that. Oh, I'm scared to do this, scared to do that. Well, for some reason, you're so scared to connect with your people because of the propaganda that everyone else is actually ingrained in your mental. But when things start happening wherever it is that you are, and you don't have a place to go back to because it is not going to be yours anymore, that's a problem.
that's right. That's
Always.
right.
So what is,
That's right.
what's the goal? What are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
Number one, wake the hell up. Excuse my language. Wake up. You have individuals, just small groups of individuals that are actually starting to wake up here in the States, in London, in Europe, and in Africa, but for some reason their voice is so small and we can't seem to unite.
Yeah, that's the key.
Can't.
We can't.
We always do this,
Well,
the Black Power thing. But
Yeah.
if you notice, my fingers all clenched and it's all together.
Oh yeah.
That's
Right.
where the power comes. We always do this, but the Jamaican thing is better.
But I mean, I would just say this to you too. I say this to you. There are some people, when you talk about Africa to them, they say, why are we just talking about Africa? Why are we not talking about here? Because if we can harness the resources in Africa and make sure that you, wherever you are as an African, that your descendants still have that continent to go back to if they choose. This is why we talk about it. The Japanese, the Chinese, the Asians, the Spanish, you name them, they talk about their homeland.
Yep.
We must stop as a people. I'm sorry. We must start understanding that when you speak about Africa, you're speaking about African people everywhere. That is your homeland. It belongs to you. It is yours. So I'm not going to focus on just what's going on in America. I'm not just going to focus on what's going on about England. I'm focusing on turning your sights on the motherland, which belongs to you. And if you like, you both of you have said, if we don't, when this ground shakes, we have nowhere to go. We have nowhere to go.
Nope.
And like you, Nandi said, look, Zambia is now a protectorate because we're not paying attention of China. Protectorate of China. Everything is Chinese. Everything is written in Chinese.
And you can't reverse it. It's not reversible.
It's reversed. So now we're not reading things written in our languages. See, your language connects you to the land. But when somebody conquers you, when they conquer you, now they introduce their way of life. Look, it's a global world. I am not advocating that we do not collaborate with the rest of the world. Of course not. What I'm saying, however, is you hold on and then you dish it out as it benefits you. Not you, someone else is holding your resources, and then you're begging for a little bit of it back.
You know,
And it's being divvied out by to everybody else but you.
so sad.
That you
It
seem
is
like
so
you want to
sad.
say something.
Well, let Denami go ahead first. I'll get after him.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting, you said why do we talk about why do we talk about just Africa and we don't talk about here? One thing that Chief just said, that was probably one of the most one of the most amazing things. Number one, in America, African Americans or those of African descent here in the US spend almost $2 trillion plus to not just the world economy, not just the US economy. We could say probably just the US economy. Okay. Maybe my numbers are a little bit off. I need to pick that up, but let me just say almost $2 trillion, if not more. It's been climbing every year of the amount of money that African Americans or those of African descent in this country spend on products and services we do not own. Think about that. Trillions of dollars on products that we do not own and services that we do not, we are not in charge of. So we help, just in this country alone, we help the US infrastructure move. We help develop it. We help structure it. We help develop the products. We help supply the services. And yet we still have no ownership of it. So when we talk about Africa, we're talking about the place, the continent, the one place that we all, from any walk of life, any place that you live, the United States, London, Jamaica, whatever, that you can see your own people and at least say, okay, there's some type of connection there. And then at the same time, have all the resources that we could command, that we could own, that we could supply, that we could export. That's ours. That's from us, that we could have ownership of. In this country, in the United States, we are clearly being taken advantage of. We are clearly still being beat down in the streets. We are clearly still being demonized, denigrated, accosted, just because of the color of our skin. Over there, it's the same thing, but at the expense of our resources. Meaning every other place is going there to get what they need in order to still exist, thrive, and to evolve. Africa has the resources, the means, and the ability to build up the rest of the world. But for some reason, we ignore that fact because people here in this country are scared to want to go back home or scared to want to identify with them. And they have absolutely no clue that the people that are still beating them down here in this country are taking advantage of who they are and what we are back home.
Yep.
So we're going to continue to talk about Africa. We're going to continue to talk about that continent because of the role that it plays in every other country along with the United States, and how us as a people here still refuse to connect the dots or connect with the people other than just the way we dance and everything else. Like you said, we can put up the Black Power fist, but when we keep putting the fingers up, we're starting to lose our power.
Yep. We are. As a matter of fact, I'm going to piggyback on what you just said for just a second, and then I'll get to the fever and the meat of this whole thing, at least the way I see it anyway. You said something very interesting, and so I need to just kind of delve into that for a second and look beyond the microscope, because I know most people don't see that. So I'm just going to go your way for a second and just kind of discuss something that will probably blow your mind and the mind of the people that are listening. You mentioned that we produce, as far as the currency is concerned, we put into this economy $2 trillion, which helps to build its infrastructure, build its institutions, build the government institutions, increase the tax base, right? We also forget that when the tax base goes up, it also provides income for the government to go outside the United States to Africa to spend the money that we put into its coffers here to help to continue to, choke us out, right? That's how it works. When the African, even Nigerians, we go abroad, we put into the economy of Britain, we put into the economy of France, we put into the economy of the United States, we put into the economy of all these other countries, right? We put money into their tax base, into their coffers, build their infrastructure, build their military. Then they use the same power that we help them build to come to Africa to subjugate us and control our resources. So we don't see that, right? We ain't that deep anymore because the religion has jacked us up. Let me also get on what you just said, but I'll put it in another term. It is no secret. Culture is the backbone of the people. Brother, my dear nephew, if you lose your culture, you're dead. You're gone. Africa, Nigeria, the biggest industry in Nigeria is the church, built by poor folks that ain't got no money. Because they've been convinced that they must repatriate their 10% into the coffers of the preacher to help build God's house so that they will go to heaven when they die. And if they don't partake in this fantasy, they'll end up in hell. They don't use Muslim resources to build anything that has any kind of cultural relevance in Africa, to help educate the young people so that when they grow up, they have a sense of nationalism, a sense of responsibility to the community. We don't have that in our schools. You can't even talk about anything that is cultural in the school without you being labeled evil or the devil. Let's not even deal with the Muslims up north in Nigeria that will murder their own people, kill, rape, kidnap, all in the name of Allah or Muhammad. The last time I checked, Muhammad is from Ghana. Jesus Christ is not from South Africa, was not from South Africa. These religious heroes play no role in any political, economic, or military situation that was a scourge of the people in all of Africa for the last 2,000 years. None of them did anything that had any relevance to Africa's condition. None. Today, lingua francas are foreign. Nigeria tried to have a national language and couldn't even do it. What is your culture? Religion, language, economics, civic, legal systems, all that stuff. It's all part of your culture. Last time I checked, the French is very proud of being French, and the French man and woman are not going to give up anything that has to do with being French in all of its aesthetic. The pomposity of a British man continues to be relevant in the way they do business. I'm an American. That's your client cry before you do anything else. But in Nigeria, how many of us are just bragging about being Nigerians? We used to brag in the 70s, even into the 80s. But as time continued to move and shift, all of a sudden, being a Nigerian becomes something that is shameful. It becomes comedic. Being African is now a joke. There's nothing to flaunt. There's nothing to be proud of. What are you proud of as an African today? What is it? Is it your economic condition? Is it your political situation? What is it? Is it your culture? All the opportunities that we need for opulence is in Africa. Tourism alone is the biggest industry in the world. Something that's simple, that does not require that much economic, support for you to make that happen. We can't even do it. The simplest thing. We can't even protect any cultural institution. Nothing that will attract people to come to Africa to enjoy Africa, other than coming to shoot lions, decimate our resources. That's the only reason why they're coming to Africa. Nobody's coming to Africa to say, man, just like you go, oh, I'm going to Dubai, I'm going to London, I'm going to New York, I'm going to Tokyo, Japan, I'm going to see the Roman Cathedral, I'm going to the Vatican. The most you got is Egypt, with the pyramids up there. There's nobody salivating to go to West Africa, to go to East Africa, except to go look at lions and hunt them and decimate the wildlife population. Everybody's just taking, and we have lost the zeal to try to protect what's ours, what we're entitled to, just like everybody else protects their own. Why can't we do the same? Why is it that when you talk about African culture, it just becomes something dirty, self-hatred? It's sad. We are the problem.
It's sad.
China.
But you know what? In all fairness, there are countries, people in diaspora that are making a lot of effort. Take the Pan-African Federalist Movement, of which I'm the global leader for the Women Mobilization Commission.
Agreed.
And I keep thinking, all right. These are the things that are wrong. These are the things that are good. These are things that need to be protected. What is the avenue to make sure that we hold on to what belongs to us? It's not a selfish thing. It is a mandate. It's mandatory, because it's not about me. It's about the future generations. Understand that those who are having incursions into Africa, they're not doing it because they want it for just themselves in their lifetime. They're preparing their children 100 years from now, children, grandchildren, all of that. I always say it. I sing it like a song. The world is a Serengeti, survival of the fittest. You can, as a matter of fact, we cannot get angry that anybody is coming and doing anything. They're doing what life requires you to do to grow your future generations. You must find where the opportunities are. These entities in Africa are seeking opportunities, and they have found the opportunities because those who live on the continent have leadership that does not understand that you prepare for the future, not for the moment. So what you accept for the moment jeopardizes the future. Got to be careful. It doesn't mean the world can't come to your shores. Of course not. It's a global world. But you've got to hold on to what you have, so that years from now, when the rest of us are not here, the children have something. It still belongs to them. The whole idea of coming together as one African people and sharing the resources, that's the one thing that those Africans who don't live on the continent must understand. That if we harness the resources in the continent and you become a part of the continent by virtue of the fact that you're an African person, those resources will be used to build up Africa and generations of Africans, not just those on the continent, but those outside of the continent. The discussion about Africa is just not people on the wayside just wanting to have something to talk about. It's about survival. Our survival is at stake. By creating the United African States, that means every African becomes part of a federation. and you have equal rights to the resources of the continent. So when you sit outside of the African continent and you don't want to hear about Africa, you're being foolish, because you're not going to be here forever. Your children will be, your grandchildren will be, your great-grandchildren. What you do today preserves tomorrow for them. And that's why I said earlier, when the dawn beat is going, change your dance. Prayer alone is not going to get us out of the mess we're in. Nope. Prayer without action is a waste of time. And you have to think in terms of, if I give you a pair of shoes, what shoes do I have to walk with? And the road is thorny. You got the shoes, and I'm hopping up and down trying to walk down this thorny road, but that was my shoe. Those are my shoes you got on, and you walk on. But I'm here fighting, trying to avoid the thorns. This is what we're doing in Africa. We're giving people the shoes on our feet. We're giving it to them so they can walk the path throughout the continent while we're hopping up and down, praying, hoping that another shoe will drop from heaven so we can put it on our feet and walk. But we gave away, excuse my language, that which was given to us, that which belonged to us to start with. Now we're begging. We have become a continent of beggars. All those African countries are dependent on international support, whereas we have everything. The purpose of this conversation is, and I want to say to women out there, the essence of globalization is that women need to stop thinking. To galvanize the women, the mindset of the women have to change as well. And that is that you cannot sit back and watch the men do the work. You are an equal citizen of Africa, of the world, period. You sitting back and watching it fall apart because you don't think you are allowed. Allowed by whom? The only thing that holds you back is what your mind tells you. What you say that you will accept is what the men will do. Most times, when the men realize you want to play a role and you insist on you want to be a part of it, they don't have a choice. Over 50% of the African continent is women. Over 50%. So for us to sit back and watch Africa being taken away from our children is no longer acceptable. It's no longer acceptable. So our movement all over the world now is, we have to come together. We have to strategize how we can make things positive, and not to make things so that nobody else can come into Africa. No. That's never going to happen. But to strategize how we can, that's not even the point. To strategize how we can hold on to the resources of that continent for our children. Namdi, you seem to want to say something. Oh, no, wait just a minute. I think it's okay. Namdi, were you trying to say something? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Because you're absolutely right. I just want to say that, as you said, survival of the fittest. Us being African also does not ignore the fact that the rest of the world, we should be able to connect with the rest of the world. We should not be able to invite people in to where we are, where we come from. It's just a thing about having a level of respect about where we come from to solidify the ability to know when we can open the door for those that we want in our presence or not. We're allowing individuals to come in and take our energy. We're allowing individuals to come in and take the things that actually allow us to set up things for the next generation. And one of the main problems, as a lot of people have already stated, as you guys have already stated, and a lot of people around the world, those that are actually fighting the good fight for the continent and around the world, for those individuals that look like us and for individuals, that don't. Leadership is one of the main culprits on the continent. Leadership is failing to provide opportunities for the people on the continent. You can't have just 2 or 3 countries on the continent of Africa where the leadership actually wants to galvanize the energy of the people as the resource. When you, as Chief said, when you have people coming in and you're just selling your land, you're also selling your people to the highest bidder.
And
you cannot claim, you're setting up everyone else's future, but not the future of your people, because your people are the resource. And when you allow individuals to be that resource to help themselves and help create opportunities for their future generations, then you're setting that environment up, that community up for success and for wealth. Generational wealth. This is what the Chinese are doing. This is what the Indians are doing. They are setting up generational wealth for their people. They're setting up generational wealth for their families. That's what they're doing. You can go to other places around the world. You can go to Asia. And if a person is working in Asia, guess what? That person that's working in Asia is most likely going to be paying taxes. The taxes are going to go towards the state. The state is going to utilize that money to help continue the infrastructure or to help to develop the infrastructure of China. Therefore, putting that money back into the coffers, as the Okechwaja stated, putting that back into the pockets of the people to continue to have them at least do the bare minimum to help raise their families. They're establishing something for their families to have generations. We're talking about something that is established by nature. This is natural. It's natural. Okay? You have a lion and a lioness. The lion is there to help protect the pride. The lioness helps to hunt and brings food for the pride. You can't walk into a lion's pride and think that you just gonna pick up one of the babies. Think you're gonna pick up one of the cubs and walk out alive. It's not gonna happen. It is not going to happen. That's not how things work. But you have these individuals walking into your pride, taking the food directly out of your kids, out of your cub's mouth, walking out, and you're saying, well, just leave me a piece of that meat. Just a little bit. Just a little piece of that meat. I know I went and hunted for it. I know this is my land. I know I got a stockpile of antelope. But just let me just a little bit. Let me get the horn to pick my teeth. I'll be happy with that. That's what's happening. Yeah, we can't allow that to happen. We need to. Number one, we need to understand that leadership is the key. And honestly, to tell you the truth, acknowledging the women that they are also going to be a part of this fight. Yeah. And they have to play their position because it starts at the home. It starts at the home. Absolutely. You got to look to see who's raising the kids that are allowing this crap to happen. Yeah, and then also know that they have to be at the exact same place as the men that are trying to do this and try and stop this. So
this is not a knock on women. You know, when Okedibia says that, it's an acknowledgement of how important that women are.
Oh, we're important. Yes, we're very important.
Without them, we can't do it. Like Nnamdi mentioned, it is the woman that nurtures the child. And the information that goes from the woman to the child, for the most part, is going to determine how that child grows up and sees the world. You know what I'm saying? Right. Now, we're running out of time, so I just want to mention two things right quick in terms of trying to steer Africa in the right direction. And when I say Africa, I also mean the diasporan community. First, we need to understand that the frustration that we have or we feel in Africa has also given rise to, over the last few decades, to a brain drain. A lot of the expertise Africa needs is outside of Africa now. We're helping to develop other countries. We live here. I live here in the United States. We are developing other countries. And the reason why we're here, for the most part, that we haven't gone back to do anything is because there's an environment of frustration in Africa that does not allow you to put your expertise in use. And that comes down to the same thing you were talking about, Nnamdi, the leadership aspect of it all, right? But we're also responsible for the leadership that we have. So when somebody is running for political office, since they have forced the Western democratic system on us, forgetting the fact that we have our own communal democracy that was part of our culture. Democracy just doesn't mean the parliamentary system and the American capitalistic system of democracy, right? We also have the communal democracy or peerism in Africa, but that's for another show altogether. We have to be the change that we seek. We need to make sure that the leaders that we want to vote into office have a Pan-African mindset. There are certain relevant questions to ask. One of those questions cannot be, are you a Christian? It cannot be, are you a Muslim? It has to be, what is your stand on the importance of cultural rectitude in the opulence of a people? That has to be number one priority. We have to think in those terms to be able to get the kind of leadership that we seek. You know, questions and answers. You weed the bad ones out. You get really deep into it. That's number one. Then number two, most important of all, once we've identified a problem and we have a strategy in place, courage. In times of war, truth has always been the first casualty. Tell the truth so that Africans can stop walking around like zombies. I'm an African. I ain't ashamed to say it. So we could stop walking around like zombies. We must have the courage to question and challenge everything that is not in the interest of the African today or the Africans of our children, the next generation. Have the courage to change and have the courage to question your leadership.
And on that note,
go ahead.
we're running out of time. But before we leave this show, I want to read something that was sent to me by a Dr. Ndubisi George. He says that although a presentation of the African leaders, all right, reveals the anti-development campaigns of the world against developing and undeveloping parts of the world, the big question remains, what are we doing locally in our sovereign domains to chart the course of our own future? If given the privileges of developmental resources and support, how ready are we to meaningfully engage our African nations towards sustainability? The dynamic dispensations of the U.S. is consistently reflected in their amenable human rights program and constant shift in their socio-economic paradigms. How about us starting with Nigeria as the infamous most popular country in Africa? Are we ready to really govern ourselves well? Is it time for an introspective reflection? Yes, it is.
Yep.
Time out for us sitting on the sidelines. If you don't know what to do, contact us. Call me, Dr. Uwa Onyoha Osimiri, 248-773-1857. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chism Live. You can have conversations with us there. We are willing to be a part of the change. We are willing to be a part of the discussion. I know I gave my number out, but please don't call me for anything that has nothing to do with what we talked about today. Let's focus on the growth of Africa, not some kind of conversation that has no relevance. But the bottom line is, yes, to answer Dr. Ndubisi, we have a responsibility. We've accepted that responsibility. We are willing to hear your voice. We want to know what you think. And so we continue with our conversations here on Chism Live every Sunday and hope you will join us. I would like to thank Yudi, Dibia Oshuaja. Thank you so very much for your insight. You get so animated and excited, and I know.
It's all for government, but it's something that I'm passionate about it, and we need this change for the next generation.
Yes. And then, of course, Namdi Osimiri, would like to thank you. You're muted. If you're muted, I don't know. Do you hear? You're muted. Okay. There you go.
I'd like to thank the hats.
All right. Thank you for your insight, both of you. And it's something that we have to keep talking about. Charles Tukuna asked me to please let everybody know he could not be on the call today because he traveled to where there is no internet access. So he's not able to join us today, but he'll be sure to join us the next week. So thank you, Nosferatu. Thank you, Kelena, K.O. Miri. I'd like to thank, let's see, Ngozi. There's a young lady, she's just saying Ngozi. And all the other individuals who were able to join us on Chism Live on Facebook and Chism Live on YouTube. Thank you. We appreciate you, and we look forward to our continued discussion next week on Chism Live. Yeah, guys here.
Yeah, guys here.